When you're ready, just resting back in your posture of choice. You can sit, you can lie down, you can walk. Together as a community, just taking time to settle into our practice. Beginning to feel that natural in-breath and that natural out-breath. Just waiting for that inhalation and that exhalation. Together we start that foundational practice of broadening awareness. The mind comes to understand that the breath is also here. Wait for that in-breath and wait for that out-breath. And it will come. Feeling the sensations of the inhalation and feeling the sensations of the exhalation. As we begin to feel the breath, we wait for the presence of the body here and now. It is not the health of the body that we wait for, but its physical presence. I feel my feet and legs here and now. I wait for the feeling of the pelvis and torso, shoulders, arms, and hands, neck and head. And I can begin to feel the presence of the body here and now. My mind starts to understand it is not alone. The breath is here. The presence of the body. And as we begin to feel the mind sensing the body and breath, it opens us to sensing for space itself. Allow the mind to rest back and wait for that feeling of space. The feeling of the open sky as far as you can see. far as you can sense. And eventually that feeling of the open sky will come. Feeling of the clouds and the horizon. The mind begins to sense space itself. And we come to know in our practice this waiting, sensing state. We begin to feel the presence of holding space within our being. And breathing here. We may start to notice moments of deep silence as we wait, of quietude, ask the mind to sense for space, the breath, and the presence of the body. Ask for its help. And you'll feel your being in that waiting state. Waiting for the feeling of the sky. Waiting for the breath. This is the foundational practice of broadening awareness and resting in a waiting state. As we continue with our practice, that feeling of spaciousness, breath, and body may start to leave us, and that's okay. Ask the mind for help in remembering the feeling of the sky. And wait. You may find another moment of quiet and sensing. Ask the mind for help in sensing the breath. and wait. And you may feel the comfort of the in-breath and the out-breath. And ask the mind to help you to feel the weight of the body here and now. And just wait. And you may begin to feel that groundedness, the weight of the body. Rest in this waiting state. Rest and breathe here. Starting to come back to the breath. Beginning to awaken the body with each breath. When you feel ready, letting the eyes open. And if you'd like to, you can make your way up to sitting. Good. I'd like to focus tonight on the mindfulness teachings. They are so important, even if we do not understand them fully when we receive them. As we start to gather those teachings, they're there to help us with deep understanding of what is here. So we look for those moments when we sit with what is here. We take our time with it. What you might start to find happens is a teaching shows up to inform that moment of what is here. And when that happens, there starts to have a transformation, a realization of what is happening in that moment. And then it becomes something new. So instead of perhaps cycling in an old pattern, repeating and feeling the same thing, the teaching is so beautiful because when it comes in, it gives us a new way of seeing what is here. It allows us to see with compassion and understanding so that we can have that transformation. So I'll give you an example of what I mean. I often now find myself remembering dreams either afterwards or even while I'm in them. A lot of old patterns show themselves in dreams. I'll find my younger self in some kind of state that I remember being in. And the other night I was woken up, I think 4 a.m, and there was this feeling, I don't know where I was, but the feeling was a feeling isolated, a feeling lonely and unhappy. And I could feel this feeling of lack in the heart, this feeling of confusion, of not knowing how to be happy. And as I rested in that, for a few moments, I really believed that I was in that moment 10 years ago, being that feeling of isolated and unhappy. But for whatever reason, it became an awareness that I was dreaming. And so I could start to look and see that, oh, that's that person. She was here 10 years ago. That's who was here. And I could see how much she was struggling, how much she was suffering. And as I looked back on her, just a moment of a little bit of judgment came. She really didn't quite understand the path with heart yet. She really was in a great deal of suffering. And when I waited and I heard that, I didn't know that the teaching of she was doing her best would come. But it did. Don Miguel has 4 agreements in his book. And one of them is to understand at all times we are doing our best. And as that teaching started to come in to say, look at this girl who is here, comes to her practice every day, even though it's a struggle, even though she doesn't know yet that fullness of that loving presence, she sits. Look at that person that dedicated her life to coming to understand those struggles, how judgment works, how worry functions, so that she could start to become free of that worry and judgment. And as I started to look at it with the eyes of that teaching, oh, she was doing her best. Her best was to be with what was here. And what was here at the time was great suffering, but she stayed with it. She looked for mentors to help her. She did her best. And so when I look at that person who was there 10 years ago, there's a reason why I used to teach and focus on suffering and how to be free of that suffering. Because that's where I was in my practice. That's where I was in my journey of the heart. And that was my best. And so now I could look upon her and see her in a different light. My heart was filled of compassion for her, and I was proud of her. So as we go through our practice or this life, whether you're struggling or having joy, it is your best at that moment. And if we can come to understand, wow, this is my best, the heart may begin to soften with what's here. And it may start to transform a feeling and connection to what's here. There's a love for that person who's doing her best or his best, however you identify. So in our practice today, I want us to get used to being with what is here, but there'll be opportunities to bring in the teachings. And that may transform the feeling of what is here. Okay? So let's go back into our practice. You can sit, you can lie down, you can walk, whatever you choose. Together, once again, resting in our foundational practice, broadening awareness. It is that waiting state. Wait for the feeling of the breath to come to you. Wait until it is felt. And eventually you'll feel the body breathing. Pause to wait for that feeling, the weight of the body here and now. And eventually the presence of the body will be felt. Wait for the mind to sense for the sky and the feeling of spaciousness. And that feeling will come. You do not have to stop thinking to experience that feeling of spaciousness. Ask the mind to wait. Wait for the feeling of the sky. Sense as far as we can with the ears for the distant sound. See if you can sense the horizon. You know the feeling of the sky. You know the feeling of the breath. You know the feeling of the body here and now. Rest in that feeling of spacious awareness. It is your deep listening state. To be with what is here. And it may not always be easy or comfortable to be with what is here. Know that you have the support of a community, the strength of their loving presence to help you sit. Whatever comes, we will rest together in that sensing state. Our presence will be of great comfort to each other as we wait. See what comes into your space as you wait. If there is thinking that you begin to focus on, that's okay. Remember at this moment, it is your best. You can see that there is a being here coming to their practice. They have dedicated this time to sit together and wait. I am so proud of that being that has come to sit and to wait. To be with the thinking that may come. I know this being is doing their best. Thank you for coming to this practice. May you remember the feeling of the sky, the presence of the breath in the body. May you remember that spaciousness. May that spaciousness build within your being as we sit together. And just wait in this feeling of spaciousness. We wait together. And there may be a feeling of fatigue or discomfort that comes, perhaps an agitation or frustration that it has come. That's okay. Feel that there is a being here willing to sit with it. Willing to rest for as long as it takes until it understands there is a loving presence waiting for that person. I'm so sorry that you're going through any discomfort. May my loving presence bring you great comfort. I will wait with you as long as it takes until you feel safe and cared for. I understand that in the past, I may not have always understood this loving presence. I may have been angry with my body. I am so sorry. But I understand now I was doing my best. I understand now there is this loving presence that waits for me. So I wait for that loving presence. For all those times that my being may have felt hurt by my actions, I'm so sorry. I did not know. For all those times that I may not have listened, I am so sorry. I did not understand. But I understand now that I was doing my best. Even though it may have been hurtful, and I thank my being for doing its best. I will continue to do my best in each moment. To come to understand this path with heart, so that I may bring you comfort and ease. So that I may know how to listen with great compassion and love. Continue to listen with that feeling of spaciousness, knowing that you have always done your best. May this bring you love once again in your heart with this understanding. And starting to come back to the breath. Beginning to awaken the body. When you're ready, allowing the eyes to open. If you feel okay to do so, you can come up to sitting. You can unmute yourself if you like and bring palms together. Namaste.
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 Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Rachel.